The fall 2018 season has begun, and wait, why is Beatless still getting episodes released? It came out in January. And before we go any further, I just want to say I am not attacking you for liking Goblin Slayer, and I am not trying to offend you. I am simply voicing my thoughts on Goblin Slayer and opening up discussion. So comment below what you think about Goblin Slayer and my opinion. I welcome it. Anyways, the fall 2018 season has begun, which means a lot of things like Halloween, bad horror movies, and awful anime. And this year's subject is Goblin Slayer, but more specifically the issues with Goblin Slayer, why it's bad, and how this anime could, well, ruin anime? Not like completely, but just like a little part of it. But hey, if it'll stop posts on Reddit of people trying to find, and I quote, other anime with rape scenes like Goblin Slayer, well, yeah, it's going to ruin anime, and not only that, but it's going to take your gerbs and your waifu pillows from you. In fact, you know what I heard? I heard that Goblin Slayer is going to take away 02 lewds. Of course, these are rumors, but I mean, look at the source. Damning evidence, I must say. So, what is Goblin Slayer? Well, it's an anime adaptation of the light novel of the same name written by Kumo Kagyu and art by Nobuo Kanatsuki. It quickly gained its popularity for bringing fantasy novels back to the good old days. And that is actually the goal of the story itself, as the creators of the novels wanted to provide a dark fantasy story like Berserk or something like Grimgar, I guess. And yeah, I know Grimgar is a newer fantasy anime. The story follows a priestess and, well, the Goblin Slayer. That one's a no-brainer. The priestess, Ona Shinken, had her group brutally attacked by goblins and was saved by, you guessed it, Goblin Slayer. And he basically walks in handing out multi-kills like it's 2007 and you're playing Halo 3 set up through LAN in your college dorm room. From there, it's pretty much what you expect. Goblin Slayer and Ona go around slaying goblins so that others won't have to. It's a dirty job, and someone's gotta do it. We care a lot. So, why do I dislike Goblin Slayer? Well, the first reason is because the characters are absolute dummies, especially in the first episode. So when Ona and her group agree to go to this cave for whatever reason it may have been, Ona tells them that they should be careful and that maybe they shouldn't go in. And at this point, I am like, yes, that makes sense, and I am sure these lovely looking people will do the right thing and not risk it. But no, these assholes decide to go into the cave and, I'm not kidding, actually act like Ona is the dumb one here. It's one thing to be stubborn about something, but these characters ignore all of the real-life threats of goblins and they, like a bunch of 80s B-movie side characters, go in anyways. Not only that, but when the goblins do attack, Dick here swings and hits the top of the cave with his sword. How typecasted can these characters be? It's like they expect us, the viewer, to accept all of this because we're supposed to hate them, which isn't a good reason to get behind a character's death, as it's basically taking the viewer out of the show and forcefully inserting the idea we should like them dying because, hey, they are annoying characters with bad writing. It's like trying to get us to hate the T-1000 in Terminator 2 because he goes out of his way to let John Connor live in the hopes that the viewer will get so fed up with the T-1000 that they'll be begging the heroes to just go and end his existence. It's dumb, lazy writing, and ruins the integrity the show didn't really have that much to begin with, as it hadn't even earned it. But the characters actually do get worse because our main character is a walking brick wall with no personality. Sure, he talks, but he talks in a monotone voice with no emotion so that we know this guy is super tough. You know who is super tough though? Guts. Except Guts has an awesome backstory, great characters to support his own story, and carries a giant hulking sword that he uses with, technically, one hand. That's badass. And on the topic of backstory, the Goblin Slayer does get one, but it's so vague and so basic, you might as well give that backstory to any superhero in a Marvel film, like the Punisher. His family gets killed by goblins, so he wants revenge, so his goal is to exterminate them all, which, now that I think about it, is also a major trait for Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan as well, except they're just, you know, big goblins. The point isn't to be 100% original though, as that is literally impossible anyways, but to be creative with the tools you have available. But Goblin Slayer does not try to even do that. Not only that, but I am pretty sure that the childhood friend of the Goblin Slayer, Ushikai Musume, is solely there just to provide fan service until she gets raped by a goblin, which is just, why? I mean, we get it, the goblins are just terrible creatures. They showed that in the first episode of the anime. But here is the thing, we don't need to see all of the hot anime girls with big bobs getting raped at every turn. Doing something just for the sake of it in a story is never good, because if you do that, it becomes a slippery slope. Suddenly, all the show becomes is gore and despair, and the viewer has no room to breathe. In other words, I am going to get a lot of hate for this, but you become the later chapters of Berserk, where at every chance, they try to force too much gore and rape into the story. The show just has awful inconsistencies that make pretty much everyone seem a little dumb. One of them is, if goblins are so dangerous, why doesn't everyone outright just avoid them? Why isn't it that when they join a guild, they get a little book of best practices in the field? This whole on its own doesn't seem that important, but it's so frustrating, as this whole goblin problem could easily be avoided. Not only that, why aren't there hundreds, thousands of Goblin Slayers out there right now? Couldn't that be a job in this world of just squads traveling around killing goblins since they're so dangerous? I'm sure people would pay a pretty penny to have a dedicated goblin company that just goes around killing goblins so they don't have to. But no, apparently Goblin Slayer is the only one ever to do such a thing. That just does not add up to me. We shouldn't accept such mediocre and terrible writing and demand better from anime, lest I remind you for the millionth time what happened to the slice of life genre. And not only that, but look at the magical girl genre. It's ripe with edgy tryhards that substitute meaningless violence for an actual story. Do we really need yet another genre that already has its mature themes in it anyways, ruined by the pointless violence fad? And if you want the old fantasy genre back where it has violent and mature themes, maybe the anime that looks like a generic isekai isn't the anime you should hitch your ride to? Maybe support actually great dark fantasy anime like Re:Zero, Grimgar, Berserk, or Yojo Senki? Food for thought. So, with all of that being said, Goblin Slayer isn't technically this awful show like, for example, King's Game is or how Mars of Destruction is. It's a show that has a lot of potential to actually do something no other dark fantasy series has done. But what it decides to do is become a generic dark fantasy or isekai that just piles on the edge and hopes that it recaptures what it thinks fantasy anime are. Will it usher in a new era of dark fantasy like the good old days? Well, it may help shine a light on the series classics, but it really isn't a needle mover. We need more anime like Berserk or Blade of the Immortal to actually make a difference, which may not happen for a very long time. So, there it is, the obligatory video on Goblin Slayer. I hope you all found it entertaining and realize I just want better dark fantasy anime than this, because this just doesn't hold a candle to even mediocre dark fantasy anime. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure to give this video a like, and while you're down there giving this video a like, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to never miss a video from me. Also follow me on twitch.tv/SeaTactics to never miss a episode of the King of Anime podcast. You will get a notification when it goes live. We cover fall 2018 anime every Saturday. It is a great show. We have a lot of fun over there, and I got a couple great co-hosts on there as well. So, with that being said, all the links you need to know are in the description. And what are your thoughts on Goblin Slayer? And do you like it? Do you not? I'm really interested what you think about Goblin Slayer. Thanks for watching and giving me all the support you always give me. I appreciate it, and bye-bye.